The painting you saw in the thumbnail is of a horned viper and based off of this particular photograph I took in the deserts of Namibia back in 2016. It was taken during my semester at sea experience, and I've made quite a few videos about the semester at sea journey, and I've created a playlist. I'll put a link of the playlist in the description below and at the end of the video. Do check them out. It's got some really great stories and really fun experiences along with beautiful paintings. But let's get to Namibia now. Namibia is extremely unique. The hot desert air blows directly into the cold, extremely productive Atlantic Ocean, and that creates some intense fog. On my first day in Namibia, I woke up very early and went out for a morning walk alongside the beach. So beach is essentially the end of the sand dunes. The desert begins at the beach, which is quite interesting because usually you'll find coastlines lined with tropical trees, coconuts, palms, things like that. But in this case, it's just a desert sand dune directly coming out of the ocean. It's so interesting, and that's again because the air blows from land to the sea. Now in the morning there was this dense fog, which also is one of the biggest sources of water for the wildlife here. But anyway, I was walking down this path alongside. On my right was the ocean, on the left were the dunes, and I couldn't see either of those clearly because of the fog. But as the sun rose up, the fog dwindled a little bit and I started to see silhouettes of some birds. I knew immediately just from the silhouettes that they were flamingos. There were hundreds of flamingos and there were some rocks around them. As the fog reduced a bit more, I realized they were not rocks, but they were seals. There were many seals around the coastline. And then as the fog cleared, I could see a little bit further into the ocean and I could see a huge pod of dolphins. And even beyond the dolphins, I could spot a few whale sprays. The ocean was so full of life, so productive, juxtaposed with this desert where I really struggled to see any life. But the deserts were in fact full of life. It was me and my eyes that were untrained. In the next few days, I did a few other adventurous things. I jumped off a plane, sorry mom, but I also went on this guided tour of the desert. The tour was called The Living Desert of Namibia, which is also the title of this video, and very appropriate at that. The tour was guided by some experts who were really good at interpreting signs of nature, and I, being grown up in tropical and temperate forests, I was not used to interpreting nature and the activities of animals in the desert. So everything was really new for me, and I was so excited to learn about this new ecosystem. For instance, the plants that I saw that looked like these dying sad looking plants were actually extremely healthy welwitschia plants, which can be hundreds if not thousands of years old. And just to imagine that these plants were still growing in the same spot, looking almost identical while we were figuring out mechanics of steam engine, was mind-blowing to me. And on the welwitschia plants, we found some desert insects, some uniquely adapted spiders, geckos with big feet, and the geckos seem to dance a little bit because they keep changing the feet that touch the hot sand. It's so cool to see. We also found this really cool chameleon, and I got this awesome photograph with the chameleon, and we were having a really good time. I was slowly learning to appreciate the diversity that the desert is supporting, and learning about all the adaptations that the animals have to survive in this really harsh climate. But life was still there. And as we were walking, I saw this pattern on the sand. And a lot of animals in the desert, they're easy to track because of the footprints they leave on the sand. You can see the footprints of geckos, chameleons, even spiders. And here there was this windy pattern, and I asked the tour guide what it was, and he was like, oh, let's follow it and we'll see. And we followed these marks, they were really not that clear. I think since I have some experience with snakes, I did know that most likely this was the marks left by the slither of a snake. I could even tell that maybe it was a viper just based on the curls of those markings, but I was really not sure. Everything was so new to me, and as we walked maybe 50 meters, the guy stopped me. He's like, "Look." And I had no idea what I was looking at, but a big patch of sand. But he's like, "Look there," and he pointed with his stick, and I could see all of a sudden there was sand, and from the sand popped two eyes and two horns. I was like, "Oh my goodness, there's a viper!" And at the same time, the tour guide was like, "Yeah, that's a horned viper, one of the top predators in this desert." It was amazing. The viper was almost completely in the sand, or so it appeared, because its markings were exactly the same as the sand. It was so well camouflaged. I immediately took my camera out and took some photographs, and I was amazed. There was this beauty, and I always find beauty in camouflage. The fact that you cannot see something clearly makes it so much more beautiful sometimes, because it represents years and years of adaptation and the trial and error that evolution and gene expression had to go through to get to certain color types and certain textures. And it's amazing to see, and that's what I've tried to reflect in this painting. But of course, I took a few liberties with the colors, but I wanted to get this feel of camouflage, and that's why I stuck with a limited palette. I only used three colors. I used yellow, magenta, and blue, and mixed them in a way to create this effect of light and shadow, but also I wanted to get the right texture. So if you see, there's the face is of the snake is highly textured, but I've left the body to be more or less loose, and then I've added a lot of texture onto the sand of the sand dunes by splattering a lot of paint. And it's always very hard to do the splatter, especially because you've put in so much effort to make this painting, and these splatters could completely ruin it. It's so easy to overdo, and very hard to correct. But sometimes you just have to be brave and go with it, and that's what I did in this painting. I trusted myself, went with it, and the result was just amazing. Without a doubt, this is one of my best paintings of snake so far, and represents such a beautiful memory of Namibia. And being able to relive memories like this is one of the best parts of making art for me.
Hey there, hope you enjoyed this video. I had a great time painting this and reliving some of my memories from Namibia. If you want to see other videos like this from my semester at sea experience, I've made a playlist where you can see all of them. There's lots of fun stories. If you like this video in particular, let me know down in the comments below what were your favorite parts. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, you can subscribe and keep updated whenever I post new videos. See you next time.